Hello, and thanks for joining this video. So, in this video, I'm going to be discussing the difference between coaching and mentoring. And maybe this topic is of interest to you as part of your sort of general knowledge interest, or maybe you expect this question to be asked at an interview setting. So, either ways, hopefully, you'll find this topic and the information that I provide in this video interesting. So let's just jump right in. So the first difference between coaching and mentoring is that that coaching is focused on a specific domain or field, right? Or in a specific core area. That's what is the focus, or coaching is focused on that. Mentoring is about mentoring is focused on a much broader area, a much larger area or topic, and is highly contextual. All right. So that is the first difference between coaching and mentoring. So let me start off with an example, and I'm going to build this example as I go through the video. So coaching, very easy to get examples right. We can think of all sporting coaches, football coach, soccer coach, baseball coach, tennis coach. Tennis coach. These are all coaches who are specifically focusing on that domain, right? You'll never find a tennis coach. You'll never hire a tennis coach as your basketball coach, right? Why? Because there's a tight focus on a specific domain in which or for which the coach needs to really be really good at, right? When it comes to example of mentoring, think of what is very commonly known, if commonly experienced, is if you ever worked at a company. You may remember that if you ever worked as an intern in a company, whenever you join a company as an intern, you're assigned a mentor. Almost always, and that is the case almost always, that whenever you join a company, regardless of the role, whether you're a software development intern or a business analyst intern or a marketing intern, you almost always get a mentor. That mentor could be a direct manager, or it could be a coworker, a colleague, right? But you get a mentor. Okay, so keep these two examples in mind in terms of a coach example and a mentor example. And I'll keep building this out further as I highlight the other differences. So let's go to the second major difference, which is the coaching is about improving performance or skills in that domain or field or core area. It's about identifying and eliminating skill gaps or performance gaps. Okay. Now, mentoring, on the other hand, is about improving or it's about knowing or advising on the unwritten rules of a situation, about the expectations from that situation. It's about knowing the norms of a circumstance slash situation that is the focus area of the mentoring relationship. So let's build out the example, right? So as I said, that example of a coach is a tennis coach that is helping you. What is helping a tennis coach doing? It's helping you improve your skills and performance with regard to the game of tennis. Tennis, as you may or may not know, has about 140 odd different shots. So a good coach's focus is going to help you improve all of the shots, ground shots and volleys and serves and half volleys and overheads and etc. etc. Right? That is what a coach is supposed to focus on. Now, many top tennis players, as you know, almost all top tennis players have a tennis coach, but many top tennis players also have a mentor who is usually a ex successful tennis player. Now, what is that mentor advising this top tennis player on who already has a coach? It's not about the improving the shots and the volleys and all of that. This person, who may have been hired working as a mentor with a current top tennis player, this mentor will be advising them on things like how to cope with a busy tennis tour schedule, how to deal with successes, how to deal with bad losses, how to deal with media, how to deal with fame, and how to carve out a life that is balanced across your training, your tour schedule, and your personal life. These are some of the topics that a mentor, should a top tennis player, hire a mentor, a tennis mentor, again, who is usually an ex-retired player, or could be another person that they trust, they will advise this tennis player on. So now I hope that this example, that fact that I built it out, further clarifies the difference between a coach and a mentor relationship, right? Now let's keep going down the list and talk about the third major difference. Coaching engagements are coach driven, and usually much more intense slash active. Mentoring relationships are usually mentee driven and relatively passive slash let me just say relatively passive. Okay, so let me explain what that means. In a coaching relationship, a coach will be driving the engagement. They will set up, the overall plan of progress, overall plan of improvement. They will set up the various touch points, which will be much more frequent, almost daily, or at least several times a week, or a couple of times a week, depending on what you're hired the coach for. But coaching is coach driven. They set up the plan, they set up the touch points. Every touch points comes with a specific agenda that the coach will discuss with you. They will set up an overall progress duration. They will set up checkpoints. So it's much more active, much more intense than coach driven, a coaching engagement. But a mentoring relationship, on the other hand, is mentee driven. It is the mentee that will basically decide the cadence. So it is usually the mentee that will reach out to the mentor on an ad hoc basis, or they will set up something like a bi-weekly, or what's more common is a monthly or every couple of months touch point. So it's much more passive from a mentor's perspective, and it is mentee driven, right? It is not as intense. So that's the third difference between a coaching and a mentoring engagement, is the frequency and who's the driver, right? Now, the fact that the mentor-mentee relationship is sort of passive, it doesn't mean it's not effective. It is just the nature of that engagement, that the flow is different from the flow of a coaching engagement, right? So that's something that I hope further clarifies the differences between these two things. And to further build out the example, right, a tennis coach, right, a tennis player who was a tennis coach, the tennis coach will have daily practice, almost daily practice, or at least a couple of times a week, depending upon obviously what level you're playing at, school level, high school level, college, or professional level, depending upon that. But the frequency of touch points between the coach will be much more frequent, right? But if you have a mentor, like the same tennis player has a mentor, as I mentioned in the previous point, the example that I mentioned in the previous point, they will meet with the mentor once in a while, right? Maybe once a month, maybe it's a quick Zoom call, maybe it's once every 6 weeks, maybe it's ad hoc, right? So again, to build out the example that I started a couple of points ago, that is the difference, another difference between a coaching and a mentoring engagement. Okay. All right, let's go to the next point, which is the duration, right? Coaching engagements are for a targeted duration, highly targeted, usually relatively short duration, whereas a mentor-mentee engagement, right, are much relatively for much longer duration. Okay, so again, coaching engagements, they're very specific. There'll be a few weeks, couple of months, right? That's what the engagements are for. Because when you hire a coach, you obviously want to see improvements in a reasonable period of time. You don't want to hire a tennis coach and the very first sign of improvement comes years later, right? So that is the nature of coaching engagement. It's much more intense and tightly, like in terms of duration, is very targeted. A few weeks to a few months. Of course, you can continue with the coaching as long as you need, but the engagement, the expectations are set over a short period of time. Whereas a mentor-mentee relationship, a mentoring engagement is much longer duration. It could go months, even years. If you're getting value from that relationship, it can go on for years, right? So that's another point to keep, another difference to keep in your sort of as a key to know about in terms of a difference between a coach and a mentor. Let me talk about another final difference from my perspective, which is a coach typically requires a coach needs formal training. Okay, whereas mentors usually don't need to have any formal training. So let me talk about this. Okay, so why do coaches need formal training? No, they don't not only need to be good at that domain, but they also need to know how to basically coach people. Coaching has many different approaches, many different methodologies, many different ways. So a good coach typically has gone through some formal training to understand how to deal with different types of students. Okay, but in a mentor-mentee, a mentor typically, as far as I know, there isn't sort of a formal mentor school or a mentor training. Now, obviously, a mentor needs to be has to have some common sense. They need to be knowledgeable about the area. They need to also know how to communicate, how to be respectful. So basically, they need to have some common sense, good, civility in their behavior, and have those, and know about the basic things that we all as people know about. But mentors usually don't have some sort of a tight, focus, formal training program, but coaches do, because again, coaching, is just different approaches, different styles, different methods that coaches need to know in order to work with different students, right? So those are the 5 key differences between coaching and mentoring, guys. Now let me give you a few examples to really solidify the information that I provided, right? So I already provided a couple of examples, right? Tennis coach versus tennis mentor, then a mentor of a person joining as an intern. So let me build those out, right? So as I said, when you join a company as an intern, most of the time you'll get a mentor who will be either your manager or your colleague. They will not be teaching you the specific skills of why you joined the company. So let's say you join the company as a software development intern. Your mentor is not going to teach you how to be a great software developer. You're supposed to know that because that's how you landed that internship, right? You prove to them that you know this to some extent, to a good extent, right? So your mentor will not be focused on that, but the mentor who's assigned to you will help you navigate through the corporate culture. They will help you with, hey, which events you should sign up for, or hey, how to improve your teamwork, right? Or how to how to deal with the, let's say, what are the trainings you should sign up for, or how to get access to tools. Those are the areas that a mentor that is assigned to you when you join a company will focus on. They will not be focused on the actual, improving your performance in the actual work. That is something that you basically learn on your own, or you have some other arrangement, right? So that's another way, another example that further, I hope so it helps you better understand the mentoring. Let me give you a few more examples, right? And this probably will hit close to home for folks who may be parents. Let's say you have a child, right? As a parent, you advise your child on many things, right? From how good values to good eating habits, to good the value of good health, and to how to choose your friends, and control their device time, and many other things. That's what you advise your child on. That automatically makes you a mentor, right? It's, you see, all the topics are overarching, they are broad, right? You're not necessarily helping them improve their performance in a specific area. You're basically giving them guidance on a multitude of topics, right? So that's, hopefully that really drives home the point of what our mentoring is all about. It's, as I said in the beginning, it's about a broad overarching topic. It's about lived in experiences. The mentor usually is advising you based on their own experience, right? Another example of a mentor would be, let's say you're going through a transition in a phase of life. Let's say you're a new parent, and you just, it's the first time being a parent, right? So usually you have someone in your family advise you, your parent, your grandparents, a friend, your brother, sister, cousin, whoever has gone through that experience, right? They automatically become your mentor. Now, you don't call them your mentor, you don't make it that formal, but they are playing the role of a mentor, right? They are advising you based on their own lived in experience on a topic, on a specific area, right, which is about transitioning into being a parent, and they're giving you their tips and the unwritten rules, the norms, right? So that's another example of a mentor. Let me give you a couple of examples from the corporate world. Many startup founders who are starting up with very good startup that are on their way to becoming a unicorn, or have already become a unicorn, right? Many startup founders have mentors. These mentors usually are partners at VC firms who has funded these companies. And what are these mentors advising the startup founders on? It's not about how to make their product more secure and more performance, or improve the performance of the product, or what is the next feature they should release. It's not about that. It's about things like how to become a better leader, how to mature as a leader, how to maybe scale the company, or what are the things to look out for if you are looking to acquire another company, or how to manage your investors, or how to refine your pitch deck. These are some of the topics. So again, it's very broad based, overarching, and telling you about stuff that is not may not be found anywhere in any formal training, but it's coming from the lived in experience of that mentor. Okay, I'll give you another couple of examples, and maybe this example will be about from the corporate world. Many companies have executive coaches. What is an executive coach? An executive coach is a person that advises the whole top leadership team of a company on many things, such as strategy and delivery, execution, and how to how to set up a innovation in your company, and so on and so forth. Right. So an executive coach is helping the executive leadership team of the company improve their performance on different aspects of the actual tactical aspects of the company. Like I said, strategy and delivery and product management and innovation, all of that, right? But it can also happen that same company CEO who has an executive coach will also have a mentor. That mentor will probably be, maybe some other successful CEO or some other board member from some other company. And in that relationship, that CEO will probably be discussing other things like, his personal maybe struggles about balancing work life versus home life, or maybe he made a mistake in a decision, how to recover from that. So those are some of the things that the mentor will be advising the CEO of a company, who, by the way, already has an executive coach advising the whole leadership team about other things. So hope this example further clarifies the fine line, or the line of difference between mentoring and coaching. Finally, the point I want to make is about life coaches. You may have heard the term life coaches, right? That term I feel is misleading. Life coaches are called life coaches, but they are more like mentors. They're helping you, they're advising you on, again, broad topics. Like they'll be mentor that'll typically, you hire a life coach for things like you're struggling with motivation, right? You start something but you can't pursue it, so you have a life coach. They will help you to build your motivation. Or you're moving to you're going through a transition in your life or some sort, maybe some sort of a personal transition, right, good or bad, and you may hire a life coach for that, right? So again, the name to me is kind of misleading. Life coaches usually are mentors helping you, advising you on in a specific area, but I feel their role aligns more along the lines of a mentorship than actual coaching, because they're not really helping you improve your performance on a specific thing, right? Because that would automatically make them a coach, right? So for example, if you hire a math tutor for your child, that's not that's a math coach. That's not a math mentor, because they're helping your child improve their performance in that specific topic or domain, which is math. Okay. All right, guys. So the last thing I want to mention is about these types of topics and information is available online, especially with advent of AI, right? Gemini and ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, right? You can type this query in there and you'll get a lot, lots of information. I did the same before making this video, and I got good information, to be honest with you, right? But I found the information to be really academic, right? They didn't match my own experience being on the ground working in these two roles. So that is the reason I put this video. But by all means, right, absolutely, go to any of the AI platforms and research this topic, and you be the judge in terms of what information you want to choose. I wanted to make this video because I feel like the answers that I got on all those tools were sort of, yeah, they were accurate, they weren't wrong, and they were comprehensive, but they were sort of high level. I couldn't connect. Like they weren't, they didn't feel real to me. Okay, that's why I made this video and tried to. Another thing they were missing was they didn't have a lot of examples when I typed this query into those AI platforms, and so that's why I thought I'll make this video more effective by giving the different types of examples I just listed for you. Okay. All right, guys. So that's it for this. Hope you found this useful. If you did, do the usual. Drop me a like, subscribe, and give me a comment, and I'd appreciate it. And I really hope to see you in my next video. Bye now.